Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to Enjoy English School. I'm Bruce.
I'm Antony.
Today we have composition.
Yay.
My favorite course to teach. A composition is to prepare a piece of writing on a topic. Our topic today is life without phones. Life without means, what if there were no phones? How would that affect you, or wouldn't it affect you?
没错，所以老师先解释了一下我们的 title 是 Life without phones. What happens if something 叭叭叭叭叭，意思就是说，他现在讲的是一个假设的情况，如果没有手机的话会怎么样？所以待会儿呢，你会在这个文章里面会注意到一个假设语气的使用哦，因为我们现在事实上大家几乎是人人有手机啊。其实跟各位顺便说一下，坐在我旁边老师是算是一个奇葩吧，他现在到目前为止都还没有自己的手机，他也是坚持自己先不要用手机，他用一般的可能在家里头用电话啦，用 email 去联络。当初我在当老师学生的时候呢，那个时候其实已经有手机，但老师也是坚持都不用。我们今天在这个过程当中，可能老师会有机会分享一下他自己的一些观点哦。那在这里的话，你要记得还有现在事实相反假设，待会我们碰到的话，我会特别给你点出来哦。
Life without phones. Life would be very different without phones. We would have to use other methods of communication to keep in touch with friends and family. Additionally, when we get lost, we would need to use physical maps or ask strangers for directions. On the other hand, we might be able to focus more on our work because a lot of the time phones draw our attention away. From my point of view, life without phones would be inconvenient. For example, connecting with my friends would become difficult, and I'd feel like I'm cut off from the rest of the world. Also, I wouldn't be able to access the latest news instantly. What's worse, my sense of security would be lost because I wouldn't be able to call for help easily in case of an emergency. Therefore, there's no doubt that not having a phone would negatively affect my life.
Okay, let's start with the beginning. Life would be very different without phones. This is the introduction to answering, it's not a question, but the title, Life Without Phones. That's a topic, or it's a topic, not just a title. That's what you're going to focus on. And usually we take a position or take a stand. Yes, life without phones is great. Or are you kidding me? Is there such a thing? You're going to take pro or con. You will support the title or topic, or you will argue against it in a good composition.
没错，我记得以前在上 Bruce 老师作文课的时候，老师跟我们讲说，一开始的时候你要先去审题，先看到 life without phones， 你的第一句话呢，要先把这些主题的关键字引导出来。然后第二件事情就是你要在这个第一句话里面，如果可以的话，去提出你对这件事情的立场跟观点。To take a stand， 这个 stand 就是我们站起来那个 stand， 然后你也可以使用另外一个字叫做 stance，S-T-A-N-C-E， 就是你的立场。那在第一句话里面，你看到说 Life would be very different without phones， 所以第一句话呢 ，life 有了 ，phones 有了。Different would be very different. Different 就是你的立场。那 would be 的部分就是我刚刚提过的与现在事实相反的假设哦。
We would have to use other methods of communication to keep in touch with friends and family. If we didn't have phones, now phones here probably refers to the modern cell phone or cellular phone. Short form is cell phones. But in the past, but long before cell phones, people did have telephones in their home, usually just one. And usually the parents would say, that's not for playing.
不是给你玩的。
Only when you have a good reason should you use a telephone. And, of course, we had lots of telephones in public places, which are getting more and more rare as time goes on. Well, you can describe, do you mean cellular phones? Because today almost everyone has one. If you didn't, it's true. We would have to use other methods of communication to keep in touch with friends and family. Keep in touch with is to be able to communicate whenever you want with your friends or family or workmates and so on. Methods of communication, a method is a way to communicate. Now, if you can think, or you would just have to imagine 150 years ago, nobody had a telephone. They weren't invented yet. So what? People they couldn't live, they couldn't have families, they couldn't work. Of course they could. It was a very, very different lifestyle. You could argue from that stance, from that position, yeah, phones are convenient, but they're not necessary. It's up to you to define how you are going to approach your topic.
没错，所以在这边的话，老师告诉你说，最重要的事情就是你要怎么样去慢慢一步一步的建构你的论述。比方说，像我们第一句话提到说 ，Life would be very different without phones。所以从这个 different，how's that different？ 所以这时候后面它呢，你就要继续讲说，怎么样个不同法呢？在哪些方面呢？要进一步的去讲得更详细 ，go into detail。所以这边的话，它告诉你第二句话说 ，We would have to use other methods of communication to keep in touch with friends and families。好，意思就是friends and family。就是我们必须要用其他的方式跟我们的家人啊、朋友来保持联系所以你在提到 communication 这件事情，所以在这里的话，你就去想说 very different。你的第二句话跟第一句话的连结，从 different 衍生出来的东西是你要提到是跟家人联系的部分，我们得要采取不一样的方法。
Continuing, additionally, moreover, we're going to give more information here.When we get lost, we would need to use physical maps or ask strangers for directions. I don't see what's wrong with that, but you can see that's possibly more difficult. Or what if it's late at night and the weather is bad, or you're lost and you're in a neighborhood you don't feel safe in? You describe the situations that will make a good composition.Remember, additionally, just mean here's another reason or here's another idea.
没错，所以在这边的话就告诉你 different 的第二块，第二个论述是说了，此外呢 ，additionally, when we get lost， 当我们今天迷路的时候 ，we would 又来了哈，与现在事实相反假设 ，we would need to use physical maps， 又要实体的地图了。好，可能要去超商去买一个地图摊开来，不能再使用 Google Maps， 好，这就直接摊开你的实体地图 ，or ask strangers for directions。所以老师刚刚看到这句话说 What's wrong with that？ 这样有什么关系嘞？因为老师不用手机，但是对我们来讲的话，说还要问人，我好麻烦哦，或者是说，哎呀，问人的话，人家搞不好会乱指路，对不对？这种情况也是有的。所以这里的话，提的第二个论点就是，你看，如果说今天迷路了，要找路的话，没有手机，你得要用实体地图，或是问陌生人路。
On the other hand,as my friends used to say, on the other hand is a thumb and 4 fingers. On the other hand, now we're going to look at what we just said from a different, usually opposite point of view. On the other hand, we might be able to focus more on our work because a lot of the time phones draw our attention away. That's for sure. All right. On the other hand is, again, we're going to give you more information, but from a different point of view. We might be able to focus more on our work. You can see on the subway that I take every day, or just walking down the street, everybody seems to be playing with or talking into their cell phones. So how could you if you're playing games all the time, you can't think about your schoolwork, or if you're an adult, your regular work. So we say draws your attention away. Here, draw does not mean hua kind. It means to pull, to pull your attention away, maybe from what you should be doing. Because come on, those games are fun. I used to play big video games when they had those. That's a lot of fun. But you can't go through life playing video games.
没错，所以这边的话呢 ，on the other hand， 老师刚刚开玩笑说啊，另外一只手上面有一个拇指和4个手指头，但事实上 on the other hand， 在文章里面写的时候，就是要带你从另外一个角度，可能提出相反的论点、相反的观点。他告诉你说 ，we might be able to focus more on our work。好，如果没有手机的话，我们可能更容易专注在我们的工作上面。Why? Because a lot of the time, phones draw our attention away. 因为手机常会让我们分心啦，会把我们的注意力给拿走。这个 draw our attention away 就是把注意力吸走的意思。我们不小心随时随地都在想说，哎，噔噔噔，好，一看一下手机，噔噔噔，然后看是谁传给我，你根本没有办法好好完成专注的做完你的工作。事实上，他就提出了另外一种可能性，另外一个论点。
Okay, that finishes our first paragraph of a composition, a possible composition. We'll take a short break and come back with more information. Okay, now let's get busy and finish our lesson for today. We only have 2 paragraphs, and here's the second one. From my point of view, I think that this is what I believe, or this is the reason or reasons I think something, I can support something or not. Life without phones would be inconvenient. The in, of course, means not. Inconvenient is not convenient. And I have to admit, if I need to call someone, I have to wait until there's an MRT station or a post office or a bank, which often have phones, and I'm the only one using them. But if you're traveling, for example, your cell phone might not be able to connect with, if you're in a foreign country, you might not be able to make calls there. Then what would you do? But in most cases, I can see why people feel if I don't have my phone, it will be very inconvenient.
OK， 好了，所以在第一段我们刚刚前面介绍了如果说没有手机的话，它的优点跟缺点之后呢，接下来我们第二段多半是这个作者自己陈述自己对这件事的观点，讲自己的想法。他就说了第一句话 ，From my point of view， 从我的观点来看呢，我认为呢 ，life without phones would be inconvenient。你看从头到尾还没讲说，只要碰到说会怎么样的话，他都是用 would。如果生活中没有手机的话，会变得非常不方便哦。这是他的这个主题，也就是这个作者对这件事的论点，他就呈现出来了 inconvenient。然后后面要提的论点都会跟这个很有关系。
Exactly. You can't just say it will be inconvenient. You should give examples so that people can easily understand why you think it's inconvenient. For example, connecting with my friends would become difficult. Here, connecting with, sometimes we say reach, R-E-A-C-H. I tried to reach you yesterday, and that would mean I tried to call you on the telephone, but I couldn't get through for some reason. It would be difficult, and I'd feel like I'm cut off from the rest of the world. Cut off means to separate in this case. If I don't have a phone, how can I talk to other people?
没错，所以在这里的话，告诉你说为什么会那么的不方便呢 ？For example, connecting with my friends would become difficult. 好，跟同学啦、朋友啊联系啊，就会变得异常的困难。哎，我听说今天晚上有一个很棒的 party 耶！哎呀，我们来找 Antony 吧。Antony 没有手机呀，怎么找他呢？所以大家都去了，就你没去。昨天玩得很开心，大家聊得很开心，跟你都没有关系。所以呢，怎么样？后面还告诉你说 ，and I'd 就是 I would 的缩写 I'd feel like I'm cut off from the rest of the world 感觉上我好像没有手机了，跟朋友很难以联系了，那样的话我跟整个其他世界的人们就有点隔绝的感觉，大家呢都没有跟，大家有去玩到的东西你都没有跟到，好，所以我们甚至有时候你有听过一个说法叫做 FOMO Fear of missing out 意思就是指说我害怕我错过了非常非常有趣的事情，很多的青少年呢，他们在手机上面会有一些焦虑症，没有手机了就很害怕，很多时候你会看到另外一个字叫 nomophobia nomophobia 就是 phobia 指的是害怕，no的部分是 no mobile phones 是吧？很夸张，老师是很难想象的。但是去查一下这个 nomophobia 是真的有这个字，整个字是写法是 NOMO phobia PHOBIA nomophobia 指的是手机不在身上产生的焦虑症，所以这边这个地方他就觉得说啊，我好像被全世界隔绝了这样的感觉。
I learned a new word today. Also, I wouldn't be able to access the latest news instantly. Also tells us, here's another reason. I wouldn't be able to access. Access is similar to reach, but usually we say reach a person. Here, we are trying to access or to make a connection with information that might be useful to us.
没错，所以在这边的话 also 是一个非常好的 transition， 也就是说今天我讲完第一点了 For example 接下来 also 就是第二个论点，好，非常重要，换论点的时候让大家知道一下你的第二论点出来了。 I wouldn't be able to access the latest news instantly. Instantly 这个字的意思就是马上立刻，我没有办法立刻可以去查怎么样 access the latest news 得到最新的消息最新的资讯， access 这个地方有点像是 get or gain 好，用就是得到获取的意思。
What's worse? Aha, here's another very good. Another reason is and looking at something, if you don't have a phone, what are some disadvantages to it? If you can describe those well, that's the same as supporting your point of view that phones are necessary or certainly very useful. What's worse, my sense of security would be lost. I would feel helpless and hopeless in the world because I wouldn't be able to call for help easily in case of an emergency. Well, we don't have cases of emergency very often, even in our whole lives, thank God. So it's this is maybe a weaker point of view, but it could be true, and it doesn't hurt your argument.
OK， 所以这句话呢，还告诉你 What's worse？ 更糟糕的是呢 ，My sense of security， 我的安全感呢 would be lost。That means I'll lose my sense of security， 我会失去我的安全感。Why？ 他说 Because I wouldn't be able to call for help easily in case of an emergency。如果碰到紧急状况的时候，我手边没有手机，我就没有办法赶快去求救了，这让我非常没有安全感。虽然老师刚刚提到说，虽然人生当中可能偶尔会有一些紧急状况，虽然这样听起来没有那么的不方便，但是呢，其实并不会削弱你整体的这个说法哦。所以第三个论点就是安全感的问题。
Therefore, now this tells us a conclusion is coming. He's given 3 points of view, 3 pieces of evidence to support his point of view. Therefore, because of these 3 reasons, there's no doubt in his mind that not having a phone would negatively affect my life. Now, this is a more reasonable thing to say than I think, than, no sense of security. What am I going to do? I might die out here without my phone. Very doubtful, but not having a phone would negatively affect my life. These days, the way people live in constant touch with other people, with the news and groups, societies, and so on, it would change their life. And if you don't like the way that it would change your life, then you could say negatively affect.
没错 ，negatively affect someone's life， 意思就只说对某人的生活产生了负面的影响。那在这句话里面，他说前面提了3个论点嘛，第一个就是我要跟我朋友联系的时候，感觉上大家都找不到我，所以我感觉上跟世界是隔绝的，所以隔绝感。然后再来呢，第2块就是说我没有办法得到最新的消息，然后第3个就是有紧急状况的时候没有办法赶快求救，这3件事情，于是 therefore， 所以呢 there's no doubt that 毫无疑问的后面这句话 not having a phone would negatively affect my life。 如果说没有手机的话，会对我生活产生很大的负面影响，这时候你可以用 negatively affect something， 就是产生负面影响的意思。
And that does support his point of view. Remember, at the beginning of this paragraph, life without phones would be inconvenient. Now, that's a reasonable statement. But if you said, I would have no reason to live anymore, don't push your idea. When you're writing a composition, if you're giving an argument in person or in writing, be reasonable. People know when something doesn't make much sense.
没错，所以不要太洒狗血，你要讲的是很具体的事情，好，很不方便，造成哪些不便？你后面的这个论点要跟前面的主轴，你选择的字要有非常密切的关系，这样子分数才会高哦。
Okay, that's it for today's lesson. The only composition lesson every month is once, and it's us. You're lucky.
Right.
Okay, until the next time we get together.
Bye-bye.